trust me, it would get ugly no matter who's pulling the trigger. One of the coolest guns ever made, the Sturmgewehr. So they went back to the drawing board and they came up with this. Not a bad piece of kit to have with you. Yep. I'm Larry Vickers, and this is Tactical Arms. This is one of the most exciting episodes we've ever done on Tactical Arms. I'm Larry Vickers, and we're going to take you through the German assault rifle. We're going to start with the Sturmgewehr, the World War II classic that was the grandfather of all the assault rifles we know of today. Then we're going to go to the H&K G3, the wannabe assault rifle turned battle rifle. And then finally, HK's latest plastic fantastic, the G36 in 5.56. Stand by, fire up the DVR. You're not going to want to miss this one. Out in the field we go. Let me introduce you to a Tactical Arms favorite. One of the coolest guns ever made, the Sturmgewehr. The original assault rifle and the most influential small arm to come out of World War II. The Sturmgewehr is the granddaddy of all assault rifles, and in fact, the first assault rifle fielded by the German Army. But before we go into more details on this classic, we got a little course of fire where we're going to compare this 1944 manufactured MP43 Mark Sturmgewehr to a 2008 manufactured M4 carbine. The course of fire is such. We've got 4 pieces of steel about 75 yards downrange. 2 12x12s, an MGM steel triple dropper, and a steel pepper popper angled forward, so a full auto burst will most likely be required to knock it down. Okay, my ambush position is here standing behind this tree. First up is the Sturmgewehr. I'm going to service the targets left to right, putting a burst on the popper, hopefully knocking it down. We'll check the time, then I'll run it with the M4 carbine and see how we do. Okay, about 18.5 seconds with the Sturmgewehr. Not bad for a gun 66 years old. Okay, now the same course of fire with the M4 carbine. Now, fans of the show will recognize this from last season. It's my decked out Colt M4 carbine. LMT SOP mod buttstock, Maytech rear sight, Daniel Defense Riz 2, LMT M203 grenade launcher. Okay, so time with the M4 carbine, 19 seconds flat. Why is that? Well, the triple dropper took more rounds on target to knock it to its bottom position. Remember, this is a 62 grain bullet. Sturmgewehr, 124 grain bullet. More mass on target. But think about it. This gun was built in 2008. Sturmgewehr was built in 1944. Performance very similar with iron sights. Now, normally I wouldn't be caught dead without my aim point on top of this gun, but really that was an unfair fight, so we took it off. Pound for pound, M4 versus Sturmgewehr in 2010, pretty impressive, and it tells you why that gun was so revolutionary in World War II. All that combines to mean that this is probably the most controllable assault rifle ever made. Check it out. German troops reported that at close range, say under 100 meters, this weapon could actually take the place of an MG-34 or an MG-42 for suppressive fire, so other troops could maneuver an assault on the position. Make no mistake, when this gun came on the scene, it was a game changer. Over 3 million G3s were manufactured, and it saw service around the world in many countries. It was the second most successful 7.62 battle rifle ever after the FNFAL. And I have a real soft spot for the FAL, but the G3, if you had to serve with it, would get the job done without a shadow of a doubt. As I said before, the G3 is roller locked. It uses 2 rollers to lock the bolt in the battery. Because of the design, it needed a way to float the round in the chamber, and it has flutes. If you compare an unfired 7.62 NATO round to an empty fired case out of a G3, you'll see the flutes I'm talking about. It has a significant felt recoil. It's got some thump to it. The depth of the flutes, the number of flutes in the chamber, and also the buffer back here in the rear of the receiver can all affect the recoil that the shooter feels. Okay, it featured a fully hooded front sight with a fixed front sight post and a diopter or rotary rear sight. 2 things I want to point out on the G3. The first one you may not know. In fact, the barrel's free-floated on this weapon, as in all HK firearms. It may look like this cocking tube is actually connected to the front sight, but it's not. The tube free floats, so when the weapon fires, the barrel has the ability to whip without interference from the cocking tube. In addition, one benefit you get from 30 caliber or 7.62 NATO, this battle rifle has the ability to punch through light cover like this brush that 5.56 generally won't get through. Let me show you. Had a little enemy steel down on the road there. We got some light brush. It's about a 75 to 100 yard shot. Got a little bit of light brush I had to penetrate through. No doubt about it, 30 caliber, 150 grain bullet and up is going to punch through it all day long. Now, one thing that HK did their homework is they made the weapon incredibly modular. Different hand guards, different butt stocks, different trigger mechanisms, and the ability to mount an optic. If you see up top here, there's 2 indentations pressed into the sheet metal receiver. HK had a claw mount that clamped on it and allowed a variety of optics to be mounted on top of the gun. Overall, the build quality of the HK G3 has been superb. That's why you still see them in service around the world. This gun has served around the world with distinction, and although it's not a true assault rifle because it fires a full power rifle cartridge, hence it's a battle rifle, it still gets the job done. So where is Germany today with their assault rifle? I'll tell you where. The G36. After the reunification of Germany in the early 1990s, their great caseless bullpup design, the G11, went out the window. Germany simply didn't have the money to afford it, and it nearly bankrupted HK. It also caught them flat-footed as a company, as their 5.56 assault rifle offerings, frankly, were pretty weak. So they went back to the drawing board with a gun called the HK50 or Project 50, and they came up with this. The G36 had a lot of neat features, nothing really too earth-shattering or new, but what it did do is package these features in a new assault rifle, unlike anything else that had quite been on the market at that time. Okay, one of the most notable features about the G36 is the dual optic. As far as I know, it was the first rifle to have one. It has a red dot sight on top and a magnified scope with a crosshair on the bottom. Both of them are made by Hensoldt and supplied to HK for the German Army. Sounds like a good concept. The problem with it is the field of view, because you have to mount 2 optics in essentially the same territory as one. Field of view is terrible, very small. It's like looking through a McDonald's straw. The theory behind it is the red dot sight is used for up-close targets. Then you go down to the magnified optic at the bottom for the crosshair for something at distance. Lord help you trying to use one of these things in low light. Pretty bad field of view, not recommended. Okay, another thing you're going to notice about the G36, it has a reciprocating charging handle. It flips both ways for left or right-handed use, and you can also take it over, lock it in place to use it as a forward assist. Sounds pretty cool. Works pretty good. Here's the real problem with it. Since it's so high, now you have to have room under the carrying handle in order to actuate the charging handle. It forces your line of sight over the line of bore. It's somewhat akin to having an optic on top of a carrying handle of an M16. We moved past that years ago. A lot of people don't like this feature. That's why if you look at the Bushmaster ACR or the SCAR, it borrows the same concept, but has it on a slot on the side of the receiver. You can switch from one side to the other. Definitely preferred. Two features borrowed from the SIG 550 series are the buttstock and how it folds, and the magazine. It's a clear polymer magazine with a greenish tint, and the way it locks together, you can place magazines together, tape them in place, and then you have 60 or up to 90 rounds ready to go. Pretty slick system. The price you pay is bulk. Much, much bigger than a standard M16 magazine. One big improvement from the older H&K guns is the access to the safety. It's in a place where most people can reach it with their thumb easily, and it goes from safe to semi to full auto fire real easy. Let me show you. Overall, the G36 is a light, handy weapon, pretty easy to control even on full auto. But for whatever reason, when it gets hot, it likes to stay hot. The plastic doesn't like to shed the heat. That, I think, has led to some problems for HK. There's really not a steel chassis or skeleton inside the gun, so when the trunnion gets hot, there's some theories that it moves around in the polymer. When it sets back up after cooling, you may have some zero shift issues. It's one of those things you can't really get HK to talk about, but there's a lot of people in the industry that think it's a real problem. Although I definitely wouldn't take it over an M4 carbine. I've shot the G36 a lot when I worked for HK and otherwise. Overall, it's a good gun. If I had my choice to set one up, I'd choose this version, the G36K. I'd put on a different optic, some rails for accessories, and I'd go to work. Not a bad gun in the big picture. We're here at U.S. Training Center in Moyock, North Carolina, and the topic for today is trigger control. Now, a lot of people understand trigger control or proper trigger manipulation is very important with a handgun, but many instructors or shooters gloss over the importance when you're shooting a weapon like this carbine. Now, I'm going to show you the famous dime drill where I'm going to balance the dime on the end of my barrel and do dry fire drills to make sure I don't drop the dime off the barrel. That will ingrain what proper trigger control is with this rifle. The other issue you need to keep in mind is resetting the trigger back to your initial slack point during recoil. That sets you up for success for follow-on multiple shots, and if you apply the handgun style trigger control that I like, that will allow you to take precise shots at distance even though you're shooting multiple shots rapidly at close range. Okay, on this drill, I'm going to put 5 shots rapidly on that moving target, simulating a bad guy running across the street. Then I'm going to have to slow down and put a precise shot on that plate. That simulates a headshot. Now what's going to come into play here is trigger control and resetting the trigger between each shot, making sure I don't get in a bad habit of snatching the trigger and breaking a clean shot every time. Okay, not too bad. I had a few shots scattered on the plate, but then when I had to slow down and put the headshot in there, I did it. Remember, trigger control. Take that home and use it. Okay, topic, prone position with the carbine. Range, T10 on U.S. Training Center. This is one of your bread and butter rifle positions. Standing, kneeling, and prone. You need to be rock solid with this with all weapon types. I'm going to talk you through it with the carbine. Pay attention. First thing when you go down, I like to create what I call the tripod effect, if at all possible. Elbow, elbow, magazine on the ground. Now, depending on the kit you have or the lay of the land, you may not be